Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Missing Frames. This is the podcast where we watch all the movies we should have seen by this point in our lives. I'm your host, Shawn Eastridge. We're hanging out on the Nerd Party Network, a collection of podcasts dedicated to all things entertainment. Check it out at thenerdparty.com and make sure you're following us on Twitter at Join Nerd Party, follow the Instagram at The Nerd Party, and like the Facebook page, The Nerd Party. I am thrilled to welcome back to the show after what feels like forever. It probably hasn't been that many episodes, but just the span of time between the episodes, it feels like it's been a long time. But yeah. John Mills, fellow Nerd Party member, back on the show. Welcome back, John. It's great to have you.
I am pleased to be here. Stunning as that may sound. And
wait, hold on. You're pleased? Hold on. Wait a second.
I know. The world's topsy-turvy. I don't know. East is west, up is down, dogs and cats living together. I am thrilled to be back, actually. It has been too long since we've sat down. I can honestly say that, of course, I've been listening to episodes as they've been released and have many critiques of you that I would like to share. But yes, I mean, it's just, I've had to buy 5 different phones because I just throw the phone on the ground. I'm like, again, Shawn, I have to listen to you in a padded room. But outside of that, I'm thrilled to be here.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. We were discussing what we should watch. And last time I think the last movie we did was Carlito's Way, which you introduced me to, the Brian De Palma film. And we were discussing, well, what's going on? And honestly, I'll be frank, it's not officially fall, I guess, until the end of September. But as far as I'm concerned, once we're past Labor Day, it's fall. And also, once we're past Labor Day, it's pretty much spooky season. And Sarah and I, my wife Sarah and I, we just start going into the horror movies. Like, it's just, we're getting into that time. I can't wait for like October. I don't know if there's like what the rules are. I don't really care what the rules are. I just have decided, I've made a unilateral decision for my family that September is when we start watching horror movies.
Yes.
And so it was perfect. I said, John, what should we do? And you said, horror movie. And I was like, great. John's on the same wavelength. And we were discussing ideas for what to watch. And I brought this film up and you were like, haven't seen it. Let's do it without missing a beat. And I'm so excited you did, because I'm really excited to see what you think. And that film is the 1977 horror quote unquote classic House, which is directed by, I'm going to butcher the name, Nobuhiko Obayashi. This is one of my favorite movies. I only saw it in the past few years. I watched it on a whim. I'd heard about it. It's part of the Criterion collection, and I kept seeing the cover everywhere, and I was like, well, that's striking, and it's a horror movie I haven't seen. Let me check it out, not knowing much about it other than it's a Japanese horror movie. I think I watched it maybe 2018, 2019, and I really don't want to say too much about it. I really don't. If you don't know anything about it, I really want you to go into this not knowing anything.
All I know is I'm supposed to watch the one with the crazy like black and orange cover, right?
Yes.
That's the poster for it.
Yes.
As opposed to the one with George Wendt that came out in 1985, directed by Steve Miner. You didn't know this?
No.
There's a movie that
was there confusion beforehand?
No.
No. I was going to say, what if that had turned out like you came back and had watched that, and I was like, wait a second. Oh no, what have we done?
We start talking about it like halfway through the first minute. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That would be great.
Been amazing.
Okay. Fred Decker, who 80s staple writer, director. Okay. He wrote a story, and it's directed by Steve Miner, who I believe he's like a legendary horror director. But George Wendt was in it. And Steve Miner is known for Friday the 13th, Part 2 and Part 3.
Oh.
He directed Halloween Water. Halloween H2O to you mortals. And he also directed Warlock, which is a weird movie. But no, I'm more honestly, trust me, I'm way more interested to see this movie that you're talking about.
That's good. That's a relief. I thought I'd made a mistake.
No, a mid-80s horror movie like and even I was too young to see it when it came out. It has a disembodied, like decayed hand ringing a doorbell. And all I remember from the trailer is George Wendt was in it. And everybody was like, hey, it's Norm from Cheers. So I'm glad I'm not watching that one.
I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Yes.
So, but this is going to be a short first part because the joy of this film is discovering it for the first time and trying to get your bearings.
Okay.
I showed this to my wife, Sarah, last year. I basically was like, we're watching this. Don't ask. We're just doing this. And her reactions, I wish I'd gotten on tape. And I almost wish I could be with you in person to get your reactions to this film, because it is a fascinating piece. What I will tell you about this that I want you to keep in the back of your mind is that Toho, the film company,
yes, okay,
they approached the director, and this is 1977, or right around, I think it was right around 1975 actually. Jaws had been released, and Toho was like, this is the future of the movies. We need something comparable to Jaws. Can you, Mr. Obayashi, make that movie for us? Can you make that our version of Jaws? And that's all I'll tell you, is that this movie was made. That was the germ of the idea for House.
So somebody came to this director and said, hey, we're known for, Toho did like Godzilla movies,
Godzilla, right? Exactly.
But you know what? Godzilla is no match for a shark. And we want a movie that is just like Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, Jaws. So this director said, I got just a thing. It's about a house. Okay. The thing is, now I really got to see this movie. Like, I gotta see this.
I cannot tell you how hard it is to not talk about this. This is more so than I think almost any episode of Missing Frames. I don't want to say anything else. And
good.
That's
okay.
The joy of this is going to be when we come back and discuss your reaction. I won't even ask you what you think it's about. I mean, frankly, I don't know if that will matter, and that will make sense when you watch the film. I usually on the show will ask people, what do you think this movie's about? And they'll describe, oh yeah, I think this, I just, I won't say anything, but I don't think anything you come up with could possibly compare.
I will just close it out. My contribution to the first part of the show with the scene playing in my head right now, the way I feel is Anakin falling to his knees crying, going, what have I done?
You're going to have something resembling a blast, I think.
I can't wait.
I mean, do you know literally? So you know the poster.
I know literally. I didn't even know the director's name till you just said it.
Okay, great.
Absolutely nothing.
When I texted, I was like, because we were looking through some horror movies, or some of my favorite horror movies, and then I said, I'd be very curious to see what you think about House, and you were just like, let's do it. And I was like, John has no idea what this is, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
Yay.
Well, let's just do this. We're going to break and watch the movie, and we will come back. So everybody, you do not want to miss this. Stay tuned. We will be back soon.
Now available to own on video cassette.
Okay, we're back. John, tell me everything. Tell me everything.
What the did I just watch, Shawn? I don't know.
Let me read you this. I was going through IMDb, and this is one of the funniest things I've ever. This is one of the best IMDb reviews I've ever read. The most popular IMDb review. It was written by a user named Helpfulness. So that could have been a name of one of the characters of the film.
There you go.
And the title of his review, he gave it 10 stars, and the title is "Could just as easily be a 1. It's hard to tell."
Yes. That I was actually going to say I need you to help me decide whether I'm going to give this 0 stars or 5. Like, I don't know.
There is no medium with this film. This
None
is
whatsoever.
a film of extremes. You reminded me, or I realized between the two parts that the last episode we did together was Scott Pilgrim, not Carlito's Way.
Yes.
And it's funny because Scott Pilgrim is also a film that like exalts in excess, like it embraces it, but somehow while I think House could be exhausting, I find it far more enjoyable than Scott Pilgrim, or like a manic film like Scott Pilgrim, because of its maybe the era it was made, the sheer gall, and the unapologetic way it just is like we're a movie about literally everything, and also like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We can do anything we want. It's the movies. Let's delight in it. And this is insane. 1 second, we're people in front of a shoe shop dancing to a song playing on the soundtrack. We're shining shoes or whatever in rhythm to that. The next second, we're a piano eating a girl's fingers off and then consuming her whole, because that's the kind of movie this is.
And she was amused by her fingers being eaten, but eating the left hand, that was a bridge too far.
That was too much.
That was a bridge too far.
Yes. So there is I mean, I'll ask you this because I'm trying to remember the point where the first time I watched it, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I guess I have to just sort of surrender to what's happening here. And I don't remember how early it was, but I do want to say I appreciate and love. I mean, you're in for a good time when the opening credit states that it is a movie, and then announces the title, which I think I was like, was that oh okay, and then we're right into it. But John, just describe to me watching this film as it started, literally knowing nothing going into it. At what point were you just like, oh no, this is what is Shawn done to me?
Honestly, I think it was the credits where you were just talking about. It was like house. I was like, oh boy, this is going to be a thing. And I kept like it's sitting in the back of my brain the whole damn time was you with that tidbit of like Toho figured Jaws was a hit, so they wanted something like this, and I'm like, not only am I convinced that the director had never seen Jaws, I'm not entirely certain the director had seen a movie before. Like this literally plays like when I was a kid and video cameras were becoming a thing, and we all had that one kid with the video, and we made our own home movies, and we were like, yeah, man, we're gonna make movies. And then like you would play it back and you're like, we really suck at this.
I love that description so much, because that is what this is. And I think the reason I knew I loved it, even as I was so baffled by what was going on, in general, there was never a moment where I was like, I never thought, as insane as the movie is, as crazy as what's happening on screen is, there was never a moment where I thought to myself, this is stupid. The movie is made with the manic abandon and energy of exactly that, like you described. And there's a second part to that Jaws story. So basically Toho said, we want a movie, we want our version of Jaws. We want that smash hit. We want something that's like a horror movie that's going to be popular with the kids. And what the director did, Obayashi, he went to his 10-year-old daughter, because he was thinking to himself, he's like, like what, like the shark eats people, like, what could this be except like, oh, the thing eats people. And he's like, that's not as exciting as like what I would want to do, or it's not as interesting as what I would want to do. So he went to his 10-year-old daughter and just said, hey, just like tell me things that scare you. And like the girl was like, oh, I was looking at my reflection in the mirror and I thought, wouldn't it be scary if my reflection attacked me? And he was like, yeah, it would be. Let's put that in the movie. And she was learning the piano at the time, and like she'd hurt her fingers or something, like one of her fingers got caught between the keys. She's like, what if a piano tried to eat you? And he's like, that's great, let's put that in the movie. And the movie is made up of these vignettes that his 10-year-old daughter came up with, and he just put it all together. And his whole thing was basically like, he's like, adults have this sort of logical kind of thinking that I did not want to do. Like when you're talking about like, all right, an adult horror movie, it's like, well, something like Jaws, but he's like, I wanted something that had the energy of like a child, like that innocence, that carefree abandon of a child, where you just, I think you hit the nail on the head with that. As even though it's kind of a joke, I think his philosophy, unabashedly, unpretentiously, Obayashi's philosophy with this film was like, I want to make something with the energy of a 10-year-old, like that children just having fun, and like, and what if the watermelon turns into a head and it bites her on the butt, like that kind of stuff. Like he made it with that philosophy, with no pretensions at all. He just wanted to make a film that like would excite children.
I would say that what happens as a result, and this is okay, I'm putting myself into the the 5-star argument, let's call it, is it winds up being a de facto, in a sense, terrific deconstruction of horror movies in general. And the absurdity of these concepts that we sit there and we're like, oh yeah, this and that's happening and the house is haunted and you got the old woman who ages backwards and she's the spirit. And it's like, if you really sit and just think about this movie for a second, which is a big ask in some ways, you wind up with this thing where it's like, wow, yeah, all of the stuff that I'm watching is so ridiculous. Yeah. Why am I taking it so seriously? So I would say that, like, I don't consider this a horror movie so much as this is, if I'm giving it like the most generous read, the most benefit of the doubt, this is somebody making a really deft, abstract movie that breaks down something that's, sort of sacred and beloved by audiences. And I thought of David Lynch. I thought of David Lynch really a whole lot during this movie, where I was like, yeah, this is
well, this is also the same year that Eraserhead came out, so
that totally fits. I will say that if you put Eraserhead and House in front of me and said, you have to watch one of these again, I'm going to watch House again, because at least during House, I laughed and I had a good time. And so it sort of screws with you that way, because I can't believe this thing is not, I mean, the era of the midnight movie is gone, but this should be touring like The Room.
Oh my God, I agree.
I would pay money to go see a midnight showing of this with an audience and just have a great time and like throw mini pianos at the screen or something like that.
I agree. Get your watermelon, toss it at the screen, injure the people in the front row.
This has got to be a cultural thing, but I really fixated on that watermelon because I'd never seen a spherical watermelon before, and it fascinated me.
It looked like a bomb too. It looked like there was a fuse on the watermelon that somebody was going to light, which frankly would not have surprised me at all. It's like, watermelon becomes the thing they use to blow up the house. Why not? Because this is that kind of movie. But the watermelon, the guy selling the watermelons, who when I guess his name is Mr. Togo, and the girl, I think Fantasy, has a crush on Mr. Togo.
Yes, she does.
He's I don't know if he's a professor or he's getting married to like their gym teacher, but when he drives up to the watermelon stand and tells the guy, oh, I don't like watermelon, I love bananas, and that somehow defeats the watermelon, he dissolves into a skeleton and falls apart, and then Mr. Togo collapses into his car and chants about bananas.
Later becomes bunches of bananas.
He becomes bunches of, because again, that's the kind of movie this is. But
why wouldn't
he? Your point about this film is less a horror movie. I was going to ask you, what genre would you classify this? Because it really, like, you could put it in the horror category, but it's not particularly frightening. Like, there are visuals that are unsettling for sure, and there are things that happen in it. Like, all the girls die at the end of the movie. Like, I mean, it's a pretty horrific fate if it wasn't done so absurdly, with like their body parts floating in a colorful abyss. Like, it's just like, there are things that are shocking to an extent, and horrifying to an extent, and there are images that are horrifying, but it's not really a horror. It's like a comedy and an action film and a surrealist. But it is, to your point, I think it's kind of an encapsulation of cinema. And I think Obayashi intended that, because he said basically Japanese cinema in the 60s had become old hat. And television had kind of taken point. Like, kids were like, the movies were lame. Like, going to a movie, it was like, oh, movies are so lame. So his intention with this film was to also make something that would excite a younger generation and get them happy and thrilled about going to the movies again. It worked. The movie was, almost against Toho's wishes, a huge hit in Japan. And particularly with the younger generation, like, older critics were like, what the hell is this? But like, the kids loved it, and they like grew up loving it. And its reputation, the film's reputation, grew because those kids grew up and became film lovers and film critics who were constantly toting like, this film was played such a huge part in my upbringing and my love of cinema. And I think, again, the film is so manic and insane, and you want to just be like, sometimes you want to just throw up your hands and be like, why is this happening? But it's done, I think, when I watched this interview with Obayashi, the director, and he's talking about this, he is utterly sincere in his intentions. He's utterly genuine. He was like, I didn't want the special effects to be good. I wanted it to look like it had been patched together. Like, a group of special effects people who didn't know what they were doing tried really, really hard to make a special effect. Like, this movie, it's full of that. And it's like, he's unapologetic about it. He's just like, yeah, that's what I wanted. I didn't want it to look good. I wanted it to be as haphazard as it looks on screen.
And knowing that intent is very key, because there were several points where you would question, why did you do that with blue screen instead of makeup?
Right.
And I actually wondered at one point, was it supposed to be 3D? And what I was seeing was that vestigial layer separation that you used to see in old 3D movies. You know,
there are many moments where the chroma key is like just off, almost like, again, intentionally off, because it's so absurd.
So did he ever give a statement as to why? Was it because he was trying to get to the TV generation that he did it in 4:3, or was that a budgetary concern?
I don't know. He didn't talk this interview. So this is on the Criterion set. He didn't talk about that aspect ratio. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe it was the confines of the house. I don't know. Maybe it was just like, oh, that's what we had access to. Like, that was the film stock. That was the camera we had access to. But like, he didn't specify why that was the case. But he certainly specified literally everything else, like, as essentially like, did you mean it to be that way? And he's like, oh yeah, I meant it to be that way. And it's like, oh, okay, good, all right, just making sure.
You realize that I'm most likely going to buy whatever like 4K Ultra HD version of this exists, even though it's on HBO Max, because if there's some sort of like hideous Holocaust and the cockroaches are digging through the remains, I want to make sure as many copies of House are laying around as possible, so that when our future insect overlords take things over, they can look at it and be like, maybe we'd better not turn this into our servants, because they're obviously insane. They're just nuts.
I am so glad to hear you say that, and I'm glad you're joining that cause, because I think this is an important cause, and this film does need to be preserved and cherished by all generations.
And that's the thing. That's the thing, is there really is, because you asked, like, you know, at what point did I realize I was in trouble? I think that I want to ask you, because I know the point for me, but I want to ask you, what was the point at which you said, because there's got to be a moment where the first time you were watching it, you said, oh, I'm completely on board with this. This is absolutely magnificent.
I think it took me not that long, but I think the moment where I kind of realized, like, oh, okay, like, all right, there is no, I need to ride this wave. I need to just, or it's going to like crash over me. And I'm like, I can either ride it or I could just let it hold me under, or maybe both, maybe a combination of both. And I think the moment that did that for me, there are a lot of like, in the opening scene, there are a lot of like dissolves and crossfades, and like somebody's face appears on screen and like, hi, and smiles. And it's like, so immediately you're kind of like, this is very like, I don't know if this is intentionally kind of kitschy if he's doing this on purpose, if it's supposed to be campy. But I think the moment where I really I was like, oh, okay, all right, I'm just going with it, was the scene where it cuts to the shoe shine people like just kind of dancing to the song, like, and doing it. And I was like, okay, so we are just going there. And then the guy, I think it's Mr. Togo, slips down the stairs, gets his ass caught in a bucket, and he's in it, just, I guess, in stop motion, just like rolling around in the street. He almost gets hit by a car. Like I that's where I kind of just surrendered to the movie. I was like, all right, okay.
I would say that's a good point. That's a good, that is a good point to surrender. I'm trying to remember whether it was before or after. I'm pretty sure it was like just before that is probably the point where I surrendered, where she meets her future stepmother. And the wind is blowing her constantly. Yes. And then the scarf like goes up. And I think that was the point at where I think some part of my brain said, every bit of this is on purpose. This is not incompetence. This is intent.
There are a couple of my favorite lines in that scene, which is her dad is a film composer, and he says, Leone said my music is better than Morricone's, which is just like, and at like something a film, only a film lover would think to put something so silly in a movie. Like, so you're like, okay, this guy is clearly someone who knows his stuff. And then he introduces her to her new mom. He said, "This is your new mom. She's surprisingly good at cooking and other things."
Yes.
I think at that point, again, it's like tongue in cheek, but you're like still trying to figure out, are you pulling a fast one on me, or is this like things like this are so overtly funny that they can't be taken seriously? But also, I mean, like, the main character's name is Gorgeous. Her best friend is named Fantasy. Like, it literally is, they are named after their character traits in a way that, like you said, as a deconstruction of, like, the horror genre in its most cliched version is monster goes after character types. Like, there's the gruff one, there's the final girl, there's the shrill one, there's the, like, they all have their types. This movie just names them after what they are. So there's Mac, who is the overweight girl who eats all the time and they tease her constantly. There's Kung Fu, the girl who knows Kung Fu and fights ghosts with her bare hands and is the best. There is Melody, who plays guitar and plays piano. Like, she plays melodies. So it's like, I again, these things are all happening in the first 20 minutes or so. It's just you're getting blasted into submission because the movie is like, nope, this is what it is. We're not like, it's like they're joking, but the movie does not wink at you. Like, it never stops to say, like, but it's like, it knows it's a joke, but it's never, I don't know what I'm trying to say. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be like, it's not above the material. It is fully embracing the material and saying, like, you better get on this level because we're not going to come down to help you.
I think that what it is there's no breaking of the fourth wall at any point. A movie like this,
there is technically, I think there is, but not in, like, what you're saying is correct. I agree with you.
It's not like Top Secret. It's not like Top Secret where they sit there and say, I know it sounds like some bad movie, and they turn and they look at the camera. They acknowledge the audience. They break the fourth wall in the sense that they look straight on at camera, but they don't ever engage the audience in the way that the Zucker brothers do with, like, Naked Gun or Top Secret or Airplane or anything like that. It's still a film contained within its own thing. And what's crazy is this, right? Is I've been trying for years to get you to watch the works of Neil Breen.
I've seen Neil Breen stuff.
Oh, you have? I thought you haven't seen Neil Breen stuff.
No. I've seen Neil Breen. I know Neil Breen.
Good. So let's bring Breen. Let's bring Breen into this conversation.
Let's do it.
Because Breen is likewise a filmmaker where I put filmmaker in quotes.
Big quotes.
But his movies don't play that differently from this. And so it's one of those things where this very movie is challenging how much I hate watch Neil Breen movies to make fun of them. And then I watch this and I have a positive reaction. And I think to myself, maybe Neil Breen really is just operating. He's operating at a different level than I do. Like maybe I need to go back and rewatch everything. But then I remember Fateful Findings, and I go, no. He just doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, I Neil Breen movies do the magic trick of being maybe an hour and a half and feeling like 4 hours long, whereas this movie is an hour and a half, and it feels like you're in a fever dream, and you don't realize like what by the time it's over, you're like, all right, it goes by so quickly.
Yeah,
but you're
true.
also, while you're watching it, you're so like, where, like, am I just trapped in this movie forever?
You know what I would say is the difference is with Breen, he's so serious and self-important and making quote unquote a statement, whereas this movie is existing on its own terms, and it challenges you to figure out those terms. And once you do, you feel like what I love about a movie like this is you feel like one of the cool kids when you figure it out. And you go, oh, okay, I get the joke. That's good. That means I'm cool and I'm with it. Whereas Breen is like not telling a joke.
Yeah, Breen, I don't think he's not in on the joke. He doesn't realize that he's the joke. Whereas this movie is very purposefully like, oh no, this is kind of a joke. Like, yeah, it's not supposed to be taken seriously. It's also like embracing how ridiculous it is and how absurd it is. But I think that's
the stones to do that. And you said that it was to Toho's chagrin that this was such a big hit in Japan.
Yeah. So what happened was
I'm guessing the producers saw it and then they were like, okay, release it. Let's take the tax credit and walk away.
Basically what happened was they asked Obayashi to come up with the script. I think he co-wrote it, or he came up with the story. His daughter came up with the story. Technically, she's credited with the story. He had somebody else write the screenplay, and he brought it to Toho. And Toho was basically like, yes, the script, it's everything we've ever wanted. We are not making it. And Obayashi was like, why not? And he's like, because not a single director wants to make this movie in our studio. Not one person. And Obayashi is like, can I do it? And they're like, well, you're not a Toho director. But eventually he got to do it. But the weird thing was, this is another situation where, like Star Wars, there was some level of hype that had been generated around it because there were novelizations released about the movie. There were like features in magazines. I think there was a manga of House. There was even a soundtrack album for House. And this was in the 2 years between him delivering a script and them actually making a movie. So there was kind of a cult following around it, so that when the film was released, or it was put into production and released, it was a huge hit. But Toho was embarrassed by they watched the movie and they had the reaction that is a normal reaction, I think, which is like, what is this? Is he serious? This is absurd. This isn't serious cinema. This is a joke, and he's turned us into a laughing stock. That was basically Toho's thing. And so they were like shocked when the film did well, and they were almost ashamed in a way that was, I think, insulting to the filmmakers. And I know the screenwriter himself was like, I never understood why they were so cruel about it. Like, they were like, how dare you make a film that made us money? Like, because Toho's stance was like, no, not this movie. This is not the kind of movie that should be making Toho money. This is the kind of movie we want to be buried. This shouldn't be what our studio is known for. So the movie, it's not like this movie exists in a world where it's like, oh, you have to get it to fully enjoy it. The general reaction was like, oh no, this is not a good movie, and it's inexplicably popular.
So I wonder, because you say, it's this big hit, is that Star Wars sent American cinema down a road by being so successful? I'm guessing that this probably pushed Japanese cinema in a very unique direction, because film is a copycat genre. I'd be so interested to see, because Star Wars is the pinnacle of filmmaking, and then you have all the knockoffs from the Roger Corman types, and so it's law of diminishing returns, where things basically that are spun off of it suck to a large degree. But but so like this though is like starting rock bottom, and I'd love to try not rock bottom. Like, obviously I've been praising the movie, but like it starts in a different polar opposite way of filmmaking than Star Wars was. It's not this big technical brilliance sort of thing. I'd love to see if this spurred things to go through a decidedly, like, everything that came after it was like a big 5-star, like, magnificent Godfather epic classic in the genre. Sort of thing.
Well, I even I can't remember who it was, if it was the production designer or somebody else. Basically, the director Obayashi got crew members to sign his script, and it was basically, they signed it like a yearbook, and he said there were just notes in there like, "This was a ton of fun. Please next time make a good movie," or something. Like, there were just like the crew members were writing this in his. So it's like this. It's not like somebody who watches this movie and is like, "Is this a bad movie?" It's like, maybe. And that was the reaction was basically condescending. Like, it was like, oh, this guy didn't make a real movie. He made a series of television commercials, because he was a TV director. And the trailer for this movie advertises him as like the world famous TV ad director with his feature film debut. Like, it's just so funny. But like, that was it. People were reacting the way I think you would expect them to react. Like, just watching the movie and being like, oh, is this a bad movie? Because this is absurd and ridiculous, and it's not like cinema. I don't get it. And so that's, I think, what Toho wanted was for it to be that. They wanted it to have that reputation with like cinephiles and people who were just on the wavelength. They did not expect it to be such a mainstream success, but it was, particularly with kids. And that was the target audience, really, for Obayashi. He wanted to make a movie that excited the next generation. It made them excited for movies again, and it worked. And that's the irony of it, is that it had such success, but Toho had its head up its own ass, and they were just like, oh, not here, not this kind of film. We don't make this kind of film.
Isn't that so interesting, though? Like, that is such a part of, I think, any industry and any business, is when the higher ups aren't happy with which project won. It's still, I would say that that's a pretty constant thing in the business world too, because everybody wants to own the success. And I think it does get under people's skin when something is successful, when they're convinced it shouldn't be. But you see that as well in movie reactions today, when you have arguments between people about what's good and what's bad, and there's absolutely no allowance for subjectivity. And if Toho had a smart marketing department, they would have turned to this director and said, okay, you figured it out. You figured out what's going to bring money in. Cool. Let's keep doing that and get these kids hooked on our product, basically. Make this the MCU of weird horror movies, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it is interesting, though, because you know what? And you're going to hate this. And I'm going to do this specifically because you're going to hate it.
I know what you're going to do. Go ahead.
What am I going to do? No.
Just do it. Just do it.
No. Tell me what you're going to do. Tell me what you're going to do.
What episode have we been on together where the Star Wars prequels?
No, I wasn't going with the Star Wars prequels. How dare you?
Right.
I like to keep our relationship full of surprises, Shawn. Come on.
Okay. All right. Just like this movie. I see.
Yes. This one's going to hurt you, though. But in terms of the success being what the studio heads don't want to be the success.
Oh, okay. Zack Snyder. We're going Zack Snyder.
There you go.
All right. Go for it.
No, seriously, because his cut of Justice League is like on fire on the sales charts.
Right.
The numbers of
HBO
Max
it's a great
subscriptions,
comparison.
But WB doesn't want it to be what they're. No, we refuse to let this be the one that's successful. It's got to be one of the other ones. And it's like, guys, people are telling you what they want. Just give it to them.
Well, you know what it is? It is, I think in both cases, it's a scenario where the studio thinks it knows best. And it's like, we know how to make movies. We know what people want to see, and we know what's a good investment and what isn't. And every so often, something happens that is completely contrary to what they have purported to know. Like, we are like Warner Brothers cannot commit itself to making 4-hour like intensely dark superhero movies. We are done with that. That's not what people want to see. And then it's like, actually, that is what people want to see, and that's what's doing well. And Warner Brothers is like, how dare you? How dare you? It's the same thing with House. It's just like, it's outside the realm of their calculations, and that scares them, and they don't know how to handle it. And so they take the route of, well, we just don't want to talk. we're not talking about it anymore. We'll just forget it ever happened, and nobody look at that man in the corner or behind the curtain, whatever it is. They just don't want to accept that there was an anomaly in their calculations, in their scheming, that proved them wrong, and basically reminded everybody that the film industry and what films will work versus what films won't work, there is no formula for it. There is no like, you can kind of sometimes say like, okay, we think this will work because it has the right star, the right director, the right budget, but there's no set guarantee of what will and won't be popular. And I think studios get real uncomfortable, particularly in a case like that, like Justice League or like House, when something sneaks in that they know shouldn't be popular, that they've written off, and then it forces them to confront, like, this is what people want to see, and it's not what we want to be doing. So what do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Let's pretend it didn't happen.
It's the sin of pride, much like the pride of Auntie, who is in the house.
Nice.
That's
nice way
people.
to bring it back around. I love
it.
Yeah,
I did it.
Yeah,
I did it.
Boom.
Yeah.
That's what
Boom.
people come to podcasts for. That's why they come to Missing Frames. They want to hear those great connections.
You go from Zack Snyder to crapping on movie executives to tying it right back into the movie. That is what you come to this show for, people, and that is why you should listen to it.
That's what it's all about.
Although Brad Gullickson was hideously wrong about Halloween 3, and the two of us proved that to be the case. Hi, Brad.
Hi, Brad. But Auntie is, so I do find it hysterical that Gorgeous is upset about her new mom, writes to an aunt that she has met once in her life and is like, can I come stay with you for the summer? And the aunt's like, sure. And in retrospect, you're like, well, the aunt's going to eat her and her friends, so it makes sense. But also just in terms of plot machinations, it's like, what? You wrote her a letter and she immediately gets back to you and is like, yes, please, and invite all your friends, come hang out with me, my niece who I've only met once, let's do this. But to your point about Auntie, the pridefulness and whatever being her downfall, even though it's not really her downfall, she succeeds and murders all the children, and it's great.
Yes, very, very true, very true, and turns a guy into bananas.
It turns a man into bananas.
But I would say honestly, I think I want to spend some time to point out favorite moments. Like absolute favorite moments from the movie.
This film is full of, again, there are things that catch you so off guard. And I think another moment that locked me into the movie, first I just have to say the train ride there when they're doing, I love the way the flashback plays out. Like they tell the story of her aunt and the husband that never came home from the war. That to me is what separates this from something like Neil Breen, where like Neil Breen, there is a fine line between like a Neil Breen movie and a David Lynch movie where they're not quite so different, but you can see what happens when like a really talented auteur makes a film and when somebody who is just very passionate and has resources at their disposal but doesn't necessarily know how to tell a story gets to doing that. But I think that little interlude in the film proves that Obayashi is a director who knows how to visually tell a story. Like he understands cinema language. It's almost an homage to the silent films, to the silent horror films, like just the way it looks, the way it plays out. But I love that it's just the girls without any explanation. The film is like, it's a flashback, but it's not just Gorgeous narrating the flashback. It's them watching the movie that we're watching, because they comment on the movie as if they're watching it. Like not like it's like, oh, Gorgeous, what an interesting story. They're all reacting to the movie like, oh, that's so sad that happened. But I love that. I also love that Obayashi is like, yes, this is that kind of movie. Yes, I am making jokes and we're having fun, but with the backdrop of the like the sky and and then it pulls out and you have an even bigger backdrop that's supposed to be real, but all that stuff is so funny. But when they arrive at the house and then the chandelier attacks and Kung Fu suddenly springs into action. That was another moment where I was like, oh, all right, okay. This is that movie and we're just going with it. It's just happening.
I absolutely, one of my favorite moments is when Melody is playing the piano and the camera is tracking around her, and then you see the skeleton behind her conducting. And it's like, and it's so obviously just somebody with fishing wire, like moving its arms up and down. That was a moment that I actually fell in love with the movie, where when Melody's getting eaten by the piano and Fantasy goes cross-eyed by the fishbowl and gives this weird like spit take reaction where it's, huh? I would say when the head comes out of the well and bites the butt, that's
again, it's so not remotely expected at all.
Yeah.
And it's a horrific moment. It's somewhat, I guess on a surface level, it's terrifying, and the head vomits blood, so that's kind of grotesque. But in general, it is so absurd and goofy. And then she pulls the head out, and she's looking at it, and it's talking to her, and she screams, and then it cuts to a wide shot, and the head is just sort of dangling and floating around. And I think there's even a sound effect like woo woo.
Yeah,
like it's just like, it is so, and then it bites her on the butt, and it's like, this is how can you not surrender to just the absurdity of it and just like accept that this is what you're watching? It's like, okay, all right, great.
I've never seen a movie before or since or whatever where somebody has been killed by mattresses attacking them. That's a very unique one.
That was another idea his daughter came up with, of like, I think they used to stay at her grandma's house, and she would go get these the futons, the mattresses, and she said they were just so heavy that sometimes like they would just collapse on her. And she's like, as a little girl, that's kind of scary. So he put it in the movie, and again, it's just in the movie, it's mattresses attack and murder teenage girls.
That then has just a crazy exchange, inappropriate joke moment where they find her underwear and somebody says, "Oh, something smells really bad." Yeah. And it's like, what happened here? Like, it's such a funny moment. And that's the thing, right? Is you've referenced how it's his 10-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
This is a horror movie for kids.
Yeah.
I could show this to my 6-year-old daughter, and she'd get a little freaked out by the concepts, but it wouldn't be so terrifying that she would have nightmares necessarily.
Yeah, there's like minor nudity in it, but overall it's not explicit in its gore or violence.
No.
It's not vulgar. It's innocently manic. Like it is innocently insane. It really is kind of one of those things where it is like a childhood. Frankly, there are Disney movies that are more traumatizing than this, but like, it is so childlike in its wonder and its inventiveness and its sheer madness that I agree. I think this is something that it will hold your attention for sure. There's no way you can be bored watching it. But I mean, there's some creepy stuff, like, Gorgeous in the tub with the hair creeping up on her, and the scene where she's looking in the mirror and she sees her aunt.
That is legitimately frightening.
It was frightening, and the aunt starts bleeding, and then Gorgeous kind of dissolves into flames. And there's like the giant clock, the girl trapped in the giant clock, and stuff like that. Yeah. But then you also have these dismembered body parts, like the legs that attack Kung Fu while she's outside, like, and she fights them off. They're like these fiery legs that I don't know I guess it's supposed to be Mac, but she fights them off, and then she goes, "Oh, well, maybe it was an illusion." And it was like, what?
Or
she
the
just
fact
easily dismisses it.
Or the fact that later Kung Fu's disembodied legs help them.
Yes, save the day.
Yeah.
Or save the day. I mean, technically everyone dies, but the legs come out of the lamp and drop kick the picture of the cat, which starts the whole, like, the house falls apart and blood starts spraying everywhere.
But I do love the whole cat thing. It's so crazy. And when they're floating on the house's blood or whatever, and which is basically like a big vat of Kool-Aid, and they're going along, and it's it's supposed to be the cat, but it's just the picture of the cat with flashing lights where the eyes should be.
Yes, and blood spraying out of its mouth. Yeah,
it's so insane.
It is, and it is such a like. I think where David Lynch comes into play is the dream logic of it. Like it is kind of like you can see this as a fever dream, as a nightmare, but again, there's almost no maliciousness to it, even though the film I think has an unsettling ending, frankly, because all the girls end up dead and uh they're murdered in the most absurd ways, but there is a creepiness, especially when Kung Fu is like her head is just floating in this space and she's talking to all her friends and they're all trapped in like this dream state that they can't wake. Like it is like there's some creepy stuff in here for sure. And there's some weird some weird imagery. And again, the girl in the clock, I think that was something else his daughter came up with that was really horrifying and
but again, to keeping it in a PG sort of sense is that's blunted. It is freaky, but it's blunted a little bit by the fact that they screw with the colors so that it turns green and then red and then green and then desaturated, and like so it bounces back and forth to sort of emphasize. I think what you said there a minute ago about the dream logic. This plays like a nightmare, and that's why I think it works at all. This is like having a nightmare while you're awake. Yeah. Because when you think back, you wake up from a nightmare and then you think about it and you're like, okay, yeah, none of that makes sense really. That's
right.
all.
A picture of a cat was spraying blood in the room and I was floating on a door. What's happening?
I was floating on a door and an evil teapot attacked me while my friend Prof was trying to figure things out. Sure. When I'm having the dream, this is terrifying and I'm sweating and I shoot up in bed. So this is it sucks because this is one of those things where I wanted in the first 20 minutes to just bring a hammer and destroy this movie. I cracked my knuckles. I was like, I've watched this type of thing before. I am ready for you. And it's almost as if you Star Trek 5'd me, where suddenly I'm like, oh no, I enjoy this. This is fine.
He says with the Star Trek 5, I can see a house poster right next to that framed Star Trek 5 poster.
You know that I actually instantly thought about getting a house poster.
I mean, between the actual Criterion cover, but the actual cover of the film, which I think it's the house with a giant tongue that spells the name, which also the director said like this is not what movie posters look like for Japanese film in the 70s, and it was yet another reason why like film production, like the company, the Toho was pissed off, and why other people were so condescending about the film. He was just not making a movie that people were used to. It was not conforming to any norms, and he knew it, but he loved doing it. And just the stories of like them making the film sounds like it was a blast. Like the girls were not professional actors and he couldn't get performances out of them with direction. So what he would do is he would play music on set that would evoke the moods that he wanted them to feel on screen, so that when it's like, oh, they're carefree and having fun, he's playing happy music, but when they suddenly need to turn and look at something seriously, he would turn the music into like more somber and creepy and things like that. But it sounds like everyone had a wonderful time making it. And I think for me, what cemented my love for the movie after I knew I loved the movie, like there was no doubt in my mind that I was like, this movie is so bonkers, I can't not love it. But I watched this interview I've been referencing with Obayashi. Like I watched it and you realize like this guy is for real. Like he doesn't seem cynical. He seems so sincere and loved making this movie, loved embracing how ridiculous it was. But there's this really sweet story of like, he was on set and he's like, the director's job is to like rally up everybody and you're all part of, you kind of want to lead the team and get everyone excited. And he said the lighting crew, like they were up in the rafters setting up the lights, and he called out one of the guys by name and he was like, hey, you better be careful up there, don't fall. Like just kind of joking and keeping the mood up. But he calls the guy by his name. And later during the day, he had, a pair of sunglasses and he lost the screw in one of one end of the glasses, so one of the lenses popped out, and he couldn't find the screw, so he's just walking around with one lens in and one lens out. They, at the end of the day, it's tradition for them to like get sake and like toast the film production, and he said the lighting crew didn't show up to that toasting. And he was like, these are the days where the lighting crew, they were like the most powerful people on a set. And he's like, I was nervous because they didn't show up. I thought I'd maybe insulted them or done something wrong, but I was like, well, let's just keep going. And they were going on with the ceremony. The lighting guys show up late, and he said, sorry, we just had to go on without you because you guys were late. And the lighting guy comes up to him and has a little handkerchief, and he opens it up, and the screw from his glasses is in the handkerchief. And the director, as he's telling the story, starts to choke up and get emotional as he relates it. But he said, the lighting guy told him, he said, no director at Toho has ever called me by my first name ever. And he's like, I wanted to find, we were late because I wanted to find this screw so badly for you because that moved me so much. And the other guys, when they on the lighting team, when they found out what I was doing, they all rallied together to help me find this screw, and we found the screw for your glasses. And Obayashi was like he's like, that was the only potential snag in the entire production, but then that was the end result, and then the rest of the thing was just a joy. But you hear stories like that, and you hear just about like, and you can't help but fall in love with the movie even more because it was made with joy and enthusiasm and sincerity. And it sounds like everyone like wanted to make, even though they reacted and were like, this movie is ridiculous and stupid, everyone had a great time making it.
The guy, honestly, the guy sounds like the Ted Lasso of Japanese filmmaking. Where it's like, and I'm only halfway through the first season on that one, but I'm already in love with that character. But
no.
I honestly, that's really cool because there are people who are leaders and there are people who are bosses. And you hear so many stories about somebody like James Cameron, who's a boss. He comes in, blah, 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 and he's barking at people and he has a vision and stuff like that. This guy had a vision. This guy knew what he was doing. But when you think about that, simply calling somebody by their name and expressing concern for them was such an atypical act that it moved not just that person, but everybody that worked with them to throw their whole day sideways just to find that. Like, that's a testament to what a decent person that guy is. And this is where I'm going to bring the room down for a second here. That's why I tend to avoid ragging on directors or efforts the same way I used to when I was younger, because everybody is a person. And even if they screw up and they make the worst movie you've ever seen, they weren't trying to make a bad movie. They were trying to make a good one. So be a little cool about it,
Yeah, no filmmaker is going out of their way to make a movie somebody is going to hate. That is never an intention of any film director. So it's with that in mind, you want to have a little bit more sympathy and thoughtfulness. And also, I mean, to your point, like, again, the guy was making a film that was clearly baffling to the people who were making it with him. It's not like, oh, it's a Japanese thing, like maybe we just don't get it, we're a Western audience. It was, nobody got it, but you still, like, everyone was there, they were with him, and he was undeterred by like the cynicism. Like, he wanted to make the movie, and he knew even when it came out and it had a negative reaction, it still was popular with the group, the demographic he wanted it to be popular with. And in retrospect, people have grown to love the movie and appreciate it, have referenced it. But I don't know. Like, I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour. We haven't talked much about, like, as far as things, I think the very nature of the film kind of throws you off, where you're like, I think, like I said, the IMDb review is so spot on, where it's like, this could be a 1-star film, but I don't know. Are there things about the movie that if you're feeling ungenerous, you would say, I can't embrace this movie because A, B, or C? Or is that with this film, I feel like that's almost irrelevant because the whole thing is kind of like this is almost daring you not to like it.
I wasn't kidding when I said it's either a 0 or a 5 and there's no middle ground. I either accept this thing as a whole or I reject it as a whole because there is absolutely nothing in its construction that follows any of the rules that I have set in my own brain for what is good. And so as a result, it's, the music's repetitive. Well, that's on purpose. Oh, well, the acting is bad. Well, that's kind of on purpose. Oh, the effects are bad. Well, that's on purpose. And so if he did all of these things on purpose, then there can't be anything really that I can rag on.
Yeah.
Because like intent does make a difference. If somebody puts together something and they want to make the greatest action sequence of all time, but it's cut wrong, and you see the guy shows up and it's set in medieval times.
The punches are missing and things like that. Like you can see the air between the fist and the face.
Well, okay, Godfather has that, so let's not get too out of control with that.
That's
I'm talking about like the Rolex on the Barbarian or sunglasses, in Shakespearean England or something like that.
Coffee cup on the Game of Thrones set.
Well, digitally you can get rid of that apparently. But yeah, that sort of thing where it's those are errors, those are screw ups, those are this, those are that, whereas this is all intent. And it's just,
it's intent, but it's also it wasn't made with the intent of I'm going to make a bad film on purpose. It was made with the intent of I want to do all these things. I don't really care if it makes sense. It feels fun and exciting to me, so I'm going to do it, and I want it to look like it's a homemade thing, like a bunch of people came together to make a movie.
Right.
And it's hard to fault that. It's hard to, like you said, you can't really say you have to either embrace it or not. But the film was made with the intention of like no apologies, but also not condescendingly saying like, if you don't get it, you're dumb. It's just like, no, this is the movie. It is what it is. And it's not trying to be anything more than that.
It's incredibly accessible hipsterism is what it is.
Yes. Or it's hipsterism, like a warm hug. It's a warm embrace. It's not trying to push you away with like, I'm so elitist.
Right.
It's
not,
like, no. It's like, I may be elitist, but we can all love each other. Give me a hug.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what it is. It's just accessible and it's fun yeah. So I did not expect when I started watching this movie to heap as much praise on it as I have, or that I felt the need to, but here we are.
That's the funny thing about the movie too. I think the first time I watched it, I was so taken aback by it, unsure about how I felt. But when it was over, I was like, God, I loved that movie. Like I just loved, again, the careless abandon. Like it really, really, not even careless, just the abandon of what it was and the sheer gall it had to just not really be worried about what its people's perceptions might be. I loved that. And I love its embracing of the possibilities of what it's trying to do.
You know what a great comparison comes to mind for me about something that is inaccessible hipsterism, if you will, is, in all honesty, Ang Lee's Hulk. He makes some really forceful artistic decisions in that for whatever purpose, and it just never gels, it never works. And it's because that whole movie has this tone of, look at how important and intelligent I am.
Yes. Yeah.
Whereas this, like you said, is let's have a great time. And it's like, I can't ding a movie for that. I can ding a movie that's self-important and, to go back to Breen, self-important. I'm making a statement. Okay. Yeah. Well, your statement might be fine, but you didn't make it the right way. Whereas this is just, I'm having a time. Great. I'll have a time too. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it's too late to ask, but I guess as we're winding down here, do you have a favorite character?
Kung Fu.
Kung Fu, for sure.
Her energy
Kung Fu's the best.
Yeah. Her
It's hard
energy
not. I
was
mean,
great.
how I mean, everyone's great, but Kung Fu is such a badass, and she's the only one who actively, instead of kind of panicking and running around like what's happening, she actively is trying to beat the snot out of some ghosts. She tries to kick her way out of the house, and then at the end, her disembodied legs kind of save the day. They destroy the house. So yeah, Kung Fu, I think, MVP of House for sure.
Yes, very much so.
Well, that's all I got. What do you think? Anything else you want to add?
I really think everybody needs to go see this movie if they haven't yet.
It's on, if you have HBO Max, if you have the Criterion channel, it is available in a couple different ways. So.
And while you may sit there, you might say, boy, they spoiled. No. Nope.
No, we didn't.
No,
we really didn't.
There is nothing
nothing
can
possibly spoil this movie for you.
It's impossible. I could describe every scene and it would not prepare you for how this movie plays. No.
I don't even know what our rating system should be. There are so many, like, dancing skeletons, body parts, floating heads, like what just anything.
I'll tell you.
John, go ahead.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this movie one eyeball in Auntie's mouth, one nightmarish dream mirror sequence, two dancing skeletons, one set of Kung Fu's disembodied legs. So that's 5 total, and it's 5 different things, and that makes as much sense as the rest of the movie. What about you, Shawn?
Yeah, all of the above. I like teeter between a perfect 5 for this and a 4. I think I go with a 4 because the movie is so insane, and it's hard to get. I guess if I'm looking for like an emotional through line, it's hard to get that from this movie, and I can totally see how somebody would be like, it's just too much and it's exhausting. I'm like, yeah, I get that. So I think the safe thing would be 4 glowing-eyed cats out of 5. But I also, in my heart, give this movie 5 out of 5 because of it's the joy with which it was so clearly made, and with which everyone involved seems to have made the film without pretension, without snobbishness. This feels like just a film that wanted to go as far out of its way as possible to entertain its audience, and I love that. I love that so much.
Yeah, same energy as the 1970s exploitation craze in America.
Yes.
Where I love those movies because it's just, let's just have a time on
there
board.
You go. There we go. So a good movie to kick off the spooky season, even if it's not quite a horror movie. But I still include this in my Halloween marathons because why not? It fits in, even if it's kind of weirdly out of place. But that's exactly what I think the movie's intention is. So, John, I'm thrilled once again that we were able to discuss a film. I'm thrilled that you had a good time. I knew you would have. I think I said in the first part you would have something resembling a blast watching this, and it sounds like you did. So I'm glad to hear it. And as far as where people can find you who are listening, who want to hear more of your work, who want to find you out on the internet, what would you tell those fine folks?
I would tell them to send their glowing-eyed cats over to me at Kessel Junkie on your social network of choice. Letterboxd is where I have the most fun on social media. And you can find me here on the network, appearing on 2 different shows. One of them is called House Lights, where we look at the work of directors separated by either decade or theme or whatever type of interlude that we want to define it by. It's a bit of fun. And on Aggressive Negotiations, a Star Wars podcast that I co-host with Matthew Rushing. And Shawn, you know, everybody is just waiting to hear where they can find you. So where are you
I'm
at?
sure they are. So you can find me on Twitter at YayShawnDoorman. You can find me on Letterboxd, just ShawnDoorman05. And I make some appearances in the Nerd Party here and there. I got to get back on House Lights at some point because we did some Wes Anderson episodes that were a lot of fun.
Right now, I'm just horrified by the idea that there is an 01, 02, 03, and 04 Shawn Doorman out there. And
there's a
this must not stand.
I'm still trying to find out who this other Shawn Doorman is, who has prevented me from the name on Twitter and on Letterboxd.
He's a dead man. That's who he is. I'm taking care of this.
I hope he sends me a cat to invite me to his house with all my friends, where we can hang out and play the piano.
Just remember, you want a cat that can open doors, but not one that can close doors, because that's a witching cat.
That makes all the difference.
Yes.
Well, John, thank you again. Always a delight to have you on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you at the movies.